Welcome to the channel and welcome to today's run through of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer updates, keeping you right up to date with everything. Manchester United have submitted their opening bid for Bryan Mbeumo. Ruben Amorim is pushing for a reunion with Viktor Gyokeres, and how Man United are going to fund all of this is revealed. United have strong interest in Emi Martinez. We want to get rid of Hojlund, Nico Paz. Rumours absolutely loads to go through in a packed video. I'm Jamie. Before we get into it, smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. And let's jump straight into it. So let's kick off with the breaking stories regarding none other than Bryan Mbeumo. So David Ornstein with a I'm gonna say a bomber, with an update last night saying that Manchester United have submitted opening offer to sign Bryan Mbeumo from Brentford, £45 million plus 10 million in add-ons, so £55 million total opening offer for Brentford and Bryan Mbeumo. Fabrizio Romano said people close to Bryan Mbeumo said Brentford would accept something similar to what United paid for Cunha, between 62 and 65 million pounds, slightly less than the initial 70 million pound asking price. Now, this is because Brentford have rejected the opening bid. Romano came out with a story saying that they want to start at 70 million pounds, which is a bit too much in my opinion. But then he came out in a video kind of saying that, see the report there, that people close to Mbeumo say they want somewhere with what we paid for Matheus Cunha, around 60 to 65 million pounds. Romano did say, though, that Bryan Mbeumo sent a very clear message to Brentford after rejecting their offers, and hopes of move to United would happen. Man United want to accelerate the deal and will be in talks in the next days as well. So we're going to go back in. We're in that kind of negotiation stage where Brentford are asking for sky-high money. We're lowballing. There'll be a meet in the middle somewhere along the line. I reckon somewhere £55 million with maybe some add-ons to take it up to 60. Around that kind of figure is the talk of the town at the moment, which normally happens if someone's asking for 70 and we bid 50. Then you meet somewhere in the middle, don't you, as well? And Bryan Mbeumo, we've got to remember, even though he's got 12 months left on his contract, he has a +1 option. So technically, from Brentford's perspective, he's got 2 years left on his contract, because they can do that +1 option. So he's not going to leave for free next year anyway. So they are in a bit of a position where they can ask for top dollar. And obviously, he's a good player, 20-goal season. Brentford are a selling club as well, so they'll want to make the most money from their deal, which is absolutely fair play to them. I wish we could sell players as effectively as some of these clubs, but we don't. But yeah, so that's the opening bid. It's been rejected, but according to Romano, United are going to go back in. Brentford it's believed around 60 million pounds, 55 to 60 million, maybe with some add-ons, that kind of figure. Ben Jacob said Brentford want at least 50 million pounds guaranteed, and are pointing to the 62.5 million pound paid for Cunha as comparable value. United still optimistic of finalising an agreement, knowing Mbeumo is keen on the move, and a second bid is expected. James Ducker from The Telegraph, interestingly, said Mbeumo's flexibility is known to appeal to Amorim. He has played as a right winger, striker, right-sided number 10, and right wing-back in a varying system under Frank at Brentford, including the 3-4-2-1 favoured by Amorim as well. So if that's kind of explains why United are pushing so hard for him. And if you remember, the brief beforehand was United were looking for players with versatility, can play in multiple positions. They're not signing players just to play a specific system. United are signing players that can offer flexibility and variety in different formations as well, because we're not buying players necessarily for Amorim. Although obviously he has a say in the transfers, we want to sign players for Man United, and players like this, Premier League proven, flexible, aggressive, ticks all of the boxes. Bryan Mbeumo, for me, good age. It's a good transfer. I'm excited about it as well. We just need to wait to see and get it over the line. But the one thing I'm kind of more surprised as is the speed in which United are moving, because we've obviously got Cunha done on the opening day of the transfer window. Now we're moving for Mbeumo very fast as well. I'd imagine I don't think they're going to want this drawn out and dragged on, because United of old would have put a bid in, waited a week, and then we would have put another bid in, and it would have been a slow burner. But according to Romano and everyone, they want to get this deal done and dusted as soon as they can, so we can then move on to the kind of next target, which is impressive. It's different for us. I say impressive. Other teams do it and are still more effective than United, but it's a step in the right direction anyway when it goes to transfers and stuff, because it's one of our big Achilles heels and why we've been, why we are where we are, because of the transfer nonsense that we've been through as well. So I'm excited. Opening bid is in, been rejected. United are going to go back in for talks. The valuation is going to be somewhere between 50 to 60 million pounds. Ben Jake was saying they want 50 million pounds plus add-ons. So the deal's going to be done around that sort of figure, I would imagine as well. There's been a lot of nonsense around Bryan Mbeumo's kind of contract situation as well. So Alex Crook said that Manchester United are prepared to meet Bryan Mbeumo's £250,000 a week demands to sign him in the summer. Now, that's ridiculous. Now, this all came about from a Newcastle journalist that kind of said he's only going, effectively was saying that Bryan Mbeumo's only coming for the money. And then this has led to all the kind of nonsense around £250,000 a week. I've heard £400,000 a week by some rumour outlets as well, which is absolutely ridiculous. Fabrizio Romano said, though, for sure he wants an important salary, but nothing different compared to other players like Cunha and more. It's normal when you go to these sorts of clubs, you always request an important salary, and obviously players are going to be well paid at United. We're one of the wealthiest clubs in the world with the biggest fan base, or one of the biggest fan bases. So, players are going to be handsomely rewarded, but they're not going to go for these kind of silly contracts like we've done in the past. Yes, we're going to pay, top players a good wage comparable to others, but not the kind of silly £400,000 a week, because that's the mistakes that we've made in the past as well. Muppetiers were saying, sources say that Cunha wages was over-reported. The fee will be in the range of £150,000 to £175,000 plus incentives like every senior signing. A similar wage is expected to be agreed between Mbeumo and Manchester United in the coming days as well. So, it's going to be, we're going to get all this kind of nonsense, because when we sign Mbeumo, it's going to be, £60 million plus the add-ons, that's 70, plus his entire contract, plus his entire life savings, plus Manchester United's entire gross income, all added to the kind of fee, and it'll be, a £500 million signing, because we do get that with the United news and signings, but we just need to be kind of careful. The reality is United are not paying silly wages for players anymore. That's one of the issues that we're having with, or not issues, one of the reasons why we're not pursuing Viktor Osimhen is because of the salary demands as well. But it's going to be well paid. So is Matheus Cunha. But it's going to be, I think, around 200, maybe less than 200 is the kind of realistic figure, I think, for reading between the lines and going off of the kind of research and stuff that I've done. Now, interestingly, how are we funding all of this? Because that's the biggest question. And it annoys me a little bit, just before we go into that kind of story, right, that as a United fan, we also have to become financial experts. Like, I don't read a lot of news when it comes to other clubs, but I very rarely hear stories around United finances and PSR and, book value and all of this kind of shit. It just generally seems to be United only that go through that. And I'm getting fed up with having to become a financial expert just because I support Man United. How they're funding it, it's not up to us, not up to me as a fan. I generally don't care how they're funding the deals. What annoys me about United, though, is the debt and the Glazers, but that's a completely slightly different subject, but it just really annoys me that we're the only ones that seem to get spoken about in terms of, finances and stuff, which really, really drives me insane. But this was a really interesting report that came out this morning from The Athletic, saying that Sir Jim Ratcliffe's £237 million cash injection into Manchester United raised United's 3-year PSR limit from £15 million to £105 million. A really good report in The Athletic. Now, The Athletic are a really good source of information, very well sourced, very well thought out as well. Did a really kind of interesting piece regarding United finances, and effectively the top and bottom of it was they found that United have like a parent company that they use for all of their kind of financial situation. Now, those books are the ones that they submit to UEFA and the Premier League and stuff. It's very complicated. I'm trying to summarize it. You'll probably do a better job in the comments of letting me know what you kind of think about it if you've read it. And effectively what it was saying, that on those kind of figures and stuff, which is the one that United actually used to submit to the Premier League and UEFA and stuff, actually the financial situation is not as bad as what it's been on the actual kind of Man United books. I hope this is making sense. It's very complicated, and that's why I've just had a bit of a rant beforehand saying we have to become financial experts as a United fan. But ultimately, in the report, it was saying that on those books, United don't actually look too bad. And because Sir Jim has obviously bought into United and invested the money into the club, so our losses, or our allowable losses from PSR over a 3-year period is £105 million. And it was believed that United only had £15 million of that left, which is why the panic around, budget and spending and PSR and stuff. But actually, the book figure is more like it's gone back up to the £105 million, which is where we're getting the funds from in order to go and have, maybe the summer that we still need to sell players to buy players, because that doesn't help. You can't just go 100 like in one season, because it doesn't help. It's next season and the season after. It still needs to be well planned and well thought out. But going off of the report in The Athletic, which was very good around the financial situation as well, we have money available. All the kind of doom and gloom and the naysayers around, United was obviously looking at the wrong, basically they were looking at the wrong company. They were looking at Man United's books, but actually their finances and stuff are done through this kind of third-party company. Very strange. I don't understand it too much, but ultimately, going off of that, we've got money to spend, because we can effectively go minus 105 million over the next 3 years as well, which is interesting. But give us your thoughts. Let me know in the comments if you understand it way better than me, because I think I've done a bad job at explaining that. But yeah, give us your shouts in the comments below, as I'm sure you will. Now, the fun doesn't stop there. So Manchester United have upped the ante in their pursuit of Viktor Gyokeres after head coach Ruben Amorim has made it clear to the Old Trafford hierarchy that he is desperate to seal a reunion with the sporting star ahead of his first full season at the helm. Manchester United have made informal contact and in an attempt to discover whether a deal for Gyokeres will be possible. And then the report went on to say that Ruben Amorim himself wasn't keen on getting Liam Delap. That was a club kind of issue. Ruben Amorim's preference or signing would be Viktor Gyokeres. That's been reported before as well, that the club's top target was Liam Delap, but Amorim would actually have favoured a move for Viktor Gyokeres. And then he said Amorim was not happy to see the Stamford Bridge-bound frontman pinpointed as United's leading target, because he had been eager to land Gyokeres. Manchester United will need to quickly sanction at least one big-name departure in order to have the funds to buy Gyokeres, Gimme Sports sources have learned. But Amorim is poised to win the battle to convince the hierarchy to recruit a proven goal scorer, after insisting that they need an elite-level finisher in order to fast-track their progress. Now, that came from Dean Jones and Danny Rust in Gimme Sport, who are actually decent sources of information as well, suggesting, to kind of summarise, that Amorim wasn't necessarily keen on Liam Delap. That was a club kind of signing, but he would have gone along with it, because I'm sure he wouldn't, he's not to the point where he's probably sat in the corner sulking and stamping his feet or anything, but his preference would have been Viktor Gyokeres. And then according to this report, we've made initial contact with Gyokeres to kind of put the feels out around, would you want to come, and so on and so forth as well. And then Amorim is trying to push the hierarchy to get this kind of deal done as well, which would be massively exciting for me personally. I think Gyokeres is one of the best strikers around that you can go out and get for a really good fee. Obviously knows Amorim as well, knows the system, but even if Amorim doesn't survive the season, because he is on a bit of a tightrope at the start of the season, we need to hit the ground running, considering the season that we've had when he came in November. Although I don't entirely blame Amorim for all the issues, it's a total mess. It's everybody's at fault, I think, at United for what happened last season. Is he a good? Could somebody else come in? And I'm sure another manager on the planet would like Viktor Gyokeres up front as well. So I don't see that as being necessarily an issue. Now, interestingly, though, the Muppeteers were saying something similar. There is an expectation that Viktor Gyokeres is kind of waiting for Manchester United. He is the main target for the striker position. It will happen once they finalise other deals and make sales as well. Which is really, really kind of interesting. And the Muppeteers did say he had to be careful with what he was saying, because he didn't want to get aggregated, and then he got aggregated because this came out on a Man United aggregator site as well, kind of saying that maybe teams are kind of turning down, or other teams are maybe going in for Gyokeres and they're not hearing back. So there could be something in that. I mean, there's no smoke without fire with Gyokeres. The situation's gone very, very quiet. Very quiet, almost eerily quiet when it comes to Viktor Gyokeres. But we need to wait and see. I'm not getting too giddy on this one, because anything can happen. there's plenty of other teams out there can offer maybe Champions League football and stuff. And by all accounts, Viktor Gyokeres would want to play in the Champions League as well. But then it all depends on how good is his relationship with Ruben Amorim, because that could be a string in our bow as well. But we're going to need to keep an eye on it. But one thing is, though, we are going to need a even though we've gone through the finances, we're still going to be in a position where we need to sell to buy beyond Bryan Mbeumo. That's kind of widely reported. And one of the players we could be looking to remove is Rasmus Hojlund. So Manchester United are desperate to find a new club for Hojlund, according to Gimme Sports sources, resulting in them escalating sorting his future to priority status. I love that. And it is felt behind the scenes that they need to quickly identify a potential landing spot instead of leaving themselves at risk of scrambling for a solution in the final weeks of the summer transfer window. Manchester United are actively offering Hojlund to clubs after determining that he has failed to live up to expectations since his £72 million arrival from Atalanta in August 23. Sources have learned that he is in danger of being frozen out if he ends up remaining in his current surroundings. And sources have been told that Manchester United's preference is to offload Hojlund in a permanent deal, but they are also refusing to rule out the possibility of having to settle for accepting an initial loan, which includes an obligation to buy if his performances have not resulted in securing widespread interest. So again, Dean Jones, good source when it comes to United, suggesting that, the Muppeteers were saying a similar thing as well, that effectively United are pushing Rasmus Hojlund out. They want to get rid of him, whether it's, obviously we would want a permanent sale. Can't get a permanent sale, though. They would be happy to do like a loan with an obligation to buy, because they don't want him just sat around. Obviously, if we do get a strike and we've got Mbeumo and Cunha and Xerxes, at the club, maybe even Chido Obi, ahead of him as well with his kind of performances, where they don't just want him sat around not playing and not being involved, because it's just going to decrease his value, and we don't want that. And it's not good for the player either as well. Like, I was reading this report, and part of me kind of started to feel a little bit sorry for Rasmus Hojlund, because it's not his fault. He is responsible for his own performances, though, and his kind of own development. But I think we've just put him in. It's just been a shambles, the whole entire signing. Too much money, too much pressure, no support, no service. It's just been a disaster, hasn't it, the Rasmus Hojlund one? So I think actually for himself, he needs to kind of remove himself from this kind of situation. But we'll keep an eye on it. Give us your thoughts, though, on that in the comments. Be interesting to hear what you've got to say regarding that report. And if the fun doesn't stop there, so Manchester United have the strongest interest in Emi Martinez. United have made contact 6 months ago, but decided to stick with Andre Onana back then. Now, that's really interesting. So that would be in the winter transfer window. So does that mean that Amorim came in November and instantly thought, I need a new goalkeeper? Possibly. But they decided to stick with Onana, obviously, because of funding and stuff like that in the January window. His departure from Villa will not be easy, especially given the high price they are asking for him. Barcelona have sounded him out, but are now signing Garcia. Now, that came from a really kind of good, or a really big South American kind of outlet. 1.5 million followers, I think they've got on X. So I'm going to assume fairly decent in terms of credibility as well, saying that United have the strongest interest in Emi Martinez. We've made contact. We've already considered signing him. The fee is believed, though I've read a report the other day saying that Aston Villa want as much as £40 million for Martinez. That would be way outside of our budget. The reports before, United are looking to sell to buy and maybe spend around 20 million on a goalkeeper if we can remove either Bayinda or Onana. Yeah, Martinez, what are we thinking? Give us your kind of shouts on that in the comments below. Ben Jacobs, though, said a similar thing, that Manchester United will move for Emilio Martinez if they can get him. He will be their choice. The feeling is that he will leave Aston Villa this summer. Now, Aston Villa, actually, I did see somewhere that might be in a bit of a difficulty with financial fair play, not PSR, because there's two rules, one for UEFA and one for, obviously, Premier League is PSR. FFP is for UEFA. Obviously, Aston Villa made it into the Europa League as well, and apparently they're one of the teams that might be struggling with FFP and do need to sell players. But are we gonna have £40 million to spend for Emi Martinez? I'm not entirely convinced. What do you think about Martinez anyway? Just as a kind of a general shout, would you be happy for him to come in? I think he's a little bit overhyped. I don't think he's as good as what he's being kind of made out to be. He's better than Onana, though. 100% would improve it. The one thing that I would kind of He's got the shithousery as well. I like that personality personally when they're playing for your team, but I hate it when it's against you. It's one of those. But then also, one of the things I thought about it is an experienced goalkeeper. I think he's 32, 33, around that kind of age off of memory. And we've got very young defenders. Like even De Ligt's only 25, even though De Ligt's a little bit more experienced. He's still young in terms of age for a defender. And obviously Aiden Heaven, Lenny Yoro, Dorgu, Harry Amas. We've got a really, really young defence. So actually going for maybe a more senior goalkeeper would not be a bad shout. Somebody that can command that kind of penalty area and help the kind of young defenders out through games as well. So I can see there being a bit of value potentially in that. It's just, are we going to spend £40 million on Martinez? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt we'll have that sort of money available, but we just need to keep an eye on it because according to those reports, he would be our preferred choice for goalkeeper if we can remove Onana, because we definitely need to sell Onana to get Martinez because I don't think you have either one of those two as like necessarily a backup, but keep an eye on it for you. Give us your shouts on Martinez and the goalkeeper situation in the comments. Now, let's so from one Martinez to another. So Lisandro Martinez is making good recovery since his ACL tear in February. He is currently doing strength and rehab work with the aim of being back on grass training over the summer. Return for pre-season is deemed unlikely. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be back playing games in pre-season, but the fact that he's doing his rehab and he's potentially coming back through the summer, that means that maybe September, October time, he might start getting a few minutes because he's been out for such a long time. He's not going to come straight back into the team. We're going to need to give him time to and minutes and stuff to break into the team as well. But yeah, that's good that he's potentially on his way back as well. It's just, will he be the same player? He's had a lot of injuries in the last couple of years. That's my concern with him. Is he going to come back the same? And then the worry is, because he's such a warrior on the pitch, would he get injured again as well? Because he's been really unlucky, like Martinez, with his injuries, because they're impact injuries that he's done on the pitch. Like I've seen it with my own eyeballs, what kind of happened to him in the tackles and stuff. And it's because he's so ferocious that he does dive into those sort of tackles as well. But yeah, hope that'll be good news. But we'll wait and see. Wait and see how quickly he comes back. Now, Manchester United have made a move for Hayden Hackney if they fail to sign Ederson. Sorry. Manchester United could make a move for Hayden Hackney if they fail to sign Ederson, who is reportedly being lined up by Al Hilal. And that came from Gimme Sport. Now, Gimme Sport have got some decent journalists or credible journalists work for them, some not so credible journalists. This came from one of their not so credible journalists, though. But he is a name that we were linked with heavily in January. It's gone a bit quiet, the rumours around Hayden Hackney for midfield. Very good midfielder. I like him, actually. I think he's a good kind of prospect, good age as well, good ball carrier. I think he's 22, coming up 23. I do like him. And if the money's not there for Ederson, would be a cheaper alternative as well. Ederson, I brought you the story yesterday that maybe Al Hilal are going for Ederson now that they've been rejected by Bruno Fernandes as well. Is a really interesting profile of player. The Championship is a tough league to kind of learn in as well and develop in. So, would have that kind of, I don't say, obviously not Premier League experience. Premier League is a step up in terms of quality, but in terms of physicality, the Championship is on par, if not more physical than the Premier League as well. It's just the quality difference, and the level of player is obviously, the golfing quality is different from the Premier League to the Championship, but would have that kind of good, good upbringing, I suppose, in there as well. So one to keep an eye on. Let us know what you think about Hayden Hackney in the comments. And then weirdly, Manchester United scouts are understood to have been impressed after monitoring the progress of Como youngster Nico Paz. The 20-year-old attacking midfielder looks like a huge prospect, and sources have informed caught offside that Real Madrid are eager to re-sign him this summer. Apparently he's got a buy-back clause from Real Madrid for around €8 million. Xabi Alonso might want to kind of bring him back as well. United are also interested and could make a move, though no contact have taken place yet as Paz considers his option. And that came from Court Offside, who are similar to Gimme Sport, where they've got some good journalists working for them and some not so credible journalists working for them. This came from one of their not so credible journalists as well. So I would say take that with a massive pinch of salt as well. It kind of felt to me like a bit of clickbait, where they put Man United and Real Madrid in a story to generate clicks. That's the way it felt to me as well. But we'll keep an eye on it. If any more credibility comes out, I will obviously let you know. And then we've still got more to go through. So Jadon Sancho is set to earn £187.5 million at Manchester United next season due to lack of Champions League football, and use that as a measuring stick for negotiations with Chelsea. However, Chelsea were unwilling to put him on a similar wage to top performers. Now, that came from the Mail. Just kind of giving an overview as to why that kind of contract situation ended between Sancho and Chelsea, which is why he's back with us. Ben Jacob has said that Galatasaray are also interested in Jadon Sancho. The price tag won't be a problem for suitors, but his wages will be. That's going to be the issue. And then Rudy Galetti said that Napoli, AC Milan and Aston Villa are among the clubs that are keeping a close eye on Jadon Sancho. Jadon is expected to leave Manchester United during the summer as part of the big changes they want to make in the squad. Now, interestingly, if we were linked with Martinez and they want Sancho, could some kind of shenanigans happen with that? I can see a situation where we end up having to loan Sancho out again and paying some of his wages. I genuinely do, because he's obviously unwilling to take a pay cut if he can't negotiate his wages down from £187,000 a week to like 120. I think Chelsea were offering him, reading between the lines as well. So if he's unwilling to take that kind of pay cut, it's going to be difficult for us to kind of sell him as well. But it's already started, isn't it? The saga's already started. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. And Alvaro Carreras' move to Real Madrid is close to completion. Benfica accepted a bid worth €45 million, which will be paid in 2 instalments of €22.5 million each. Under this agreement, United will net €9 million from Carreras' move to Madrid, so that's good. A little bit of a Brucey bonus in terms of windfall for the sell-on clause that we added in some of the players that we sold his contract. Jason Wilcox is now Manchester United's Director of Football. So Jason Wilcox has been promoted to our Director of Football. So he's left I can't remember his previous role, but he's now the official Director of Football. He was pretty much doing that job anyway, so that shouldn't come as a necessarily surprise. I think it's just a change in job title by the sounds of things, because he's been pretty much running the show behind the scenes anyway since Dan Ashworth kind of left. So, fair play. We'll have to see what he's all about. Apparently he's, very, very highly regarded as well. We just need to see the fruits of his kind of work, which we are starting to be fair, with Cunha. Apparently he's going to be heavily involved in the transfer window as well. So Cunha and Mbeumo moving fast. I'd love to see us go and get some hidden gems, though. Let's go out and get some, another Kone, another Obi, those sort of players as well. I'd love to see us still doing that as well, but we need to see how Jason Wilcox gets on. And so Dave Brailsford is returning to Ineos's Director of Sport after a year at Manchester United. So the Times are saying that Dave Brailsford is taking a step back from his role at Man United. He's still on the board, though, I think, but he's going to start going back to Ineos as well, which is fair enough. I think these people, because they work directly for Ineos, were brought in just to kind of get the structure in place, get the Omar Baradas, the Jason Wilcoxes, the Vivals, and, I think Dave Brailsford had a big hand in upgrading Carrington as one of the first things that Ineos did when they came in as well, is get the training facility up current and up to date and modernised and all that stuff. And now he's effectively put all of the pieces in place. He doesn't need to be around anymore as well, which is fair enough. That is what it is. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. Give us your thoughts on all the other topics discussed in today's video. Absolutely loads going on, so make sure you subscribe, and I'll bring you any updates when they come out. Like the video on your way out as well. See you in the next one.